Marketplace. Barrio Queen is where you can find us. It is indeed Taco Tuesday and also El Bandito Yankee Tequila Tuesday as well. We're going to really dive in now to the game that is going to take place tonight at Chase Field and the rest of the series. Top team in the NL, top team in the AL. Arizona Diamondbacks beat writer PHNX. It is indeed Jesse Freidman, and you can find Jesse on Twitter at Jesse N. Freidman. Jesse, it's Jimmy B. and Manooch. How are you, pal?
I am doing great. How are you guys?
We're wonderful. Set us up with what we're going to see here with these top teams this evening.
Yeah, I mean, entering the season, right, I don't think you would have necessarily pictured that a late June matchup between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Tampa Bay Rays would really be, that much of an event. But here we are, right? The Diamondbacks are placed. They're 47-32. They're 15 games over 500. And this visiting Tampa Bay Rays team, we've been kind of viewing them as the best team in baseball for a number of months now with the way that they started off their season. But this has been sort of unprecedented for them as well, the way that they've played this year. So, yeah, it should be a fun series here between two young up-and-coming teams here in the Diamondbacks and the Rays over these next 3 days.
Jesse, it's interesting. You see the Diamondbacks, their differential is plus 36, and you see some of the others like the Braves are plus 110, or how about the Rangers plus 147? Well, forget that. How about Tampa Bay plus 150 differential? I mean, they're scoring runs. They've got 54 victories. I mean, they're just kind of steady as she goes, but plus 150 by Tampa, it's just amazing to see that number.
I mean, yeah, the way that they started their season was just unbelievable. I mean, they were far and away the best team in baseball through the first month of the season. They've actually cooled down here in the last month or so. Believe it or not, I think they're 5-5 in their last 10. They've come down to earth a little bit. But yeah, they still hold the best record in baseball for a reason. And they really do everything pretty well. I mean, their starting rotation, although it's been banged up a little bit at times, continues to be a force for them. Their lineup has been consistently the best in baseball, arguably, throughout this entire season. And, their bullpen has actually not been all that great for them. That's something that I think they would like to improve at the trade deadline. But all in all, I mean, the way that their offense alone has played this year is really incredible, and it's a big reason why they're at where they're at right now.
And talk about the prowess of one young Taj Bradley. He's taking the bump tonight for the Rays, and just how he's developing. Here's his top prospect that can just flat bring it. But talk about his prowess and how they're bringing him along.
Taj Bradley, yeah, a name that, maybe not a household name at this point. DBacks fans looking at this pitching matchup, seeing Zach Gallen on the mound, who is, 7-0 with a 1.00 ERA at home. He's been incredible at Chase Field this year. You might feel like this game should be in the bag based on how he's played at home this year. But yeah, Taj Bradley, his ERA is just under 4. But man, this kid can pitch. He's in his early 20s, coming up into the big leagues. He has a whole bunch of strikeouts here to start off his career. His strikeout rate is off the charts at this point. So, yeah, maybe not a household name yet, but that's sort of what the Tampa Bay Rays do, right? They have a bunch of guys in their rotation, a bunch of guys in their lineup whose names you might not know, but they can play, and we'll see how it unfolds today.
Jesse, we had a conversation at the beginning of the show in the last hour. If we knew anybody who was a Tampa Bay Rays fan, none of us, including Spence back in the studio, could recall anybody who said, I'm a Rays fan. With that being said, what do you expect for attendance during this series?
It's an interesting question. We have seen it tick up a little bit in recent days for the Diamondbacks. I know on Father's Day against the Cleveland Guardians, a team that wouldn't normally draw all that well. Obviously, it was Father's Day, but the D-backs drew 42,000 plus that day, which I think was the fourth highest in franchise history for Father's Day attendance. And I think a lot of people are looking at this series as kind of a litmus test for the Diamondbacks. Something like what they just went through in San Francisco, playing a really hot team there. This is another test for them going up against the best team in baseball to this point in the season. I don't think you're going to see, 40,000. You might not see 30,000 in the series, it being here in the middle of the week. But, I think low mid-20s is probably realistic, just given what this series means for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Jesse, you look at the All-Star break just about a week and a half away in reference to this, how this Diamondback team wants to set themselves up. And to your point, nobody would have thought they'd be 2.5 games up at this point in the year on June 27th. All that being said, there's a few, warts on this team. Bullpen, maybe another rotation starter, something along those lines, maybe another bat. What is Mike Hayes and the powers that be bantering around as the trade deadline looms there after the All-Star break?
I think it's pretty clear that the Diamondbacks want pitching. And of course, they're not alone in that. That's part of what every contending team seems to want more than anything else come the trade deadline. But yeah, I think the bullpen has been relatively steady in recent days for the D-backs. I think it's been actually more of a success than a failure, at least over the last month or so. But you could always add there. I think the D-backs would benefit a lot from having a true bona fide closer, someone who has a lot of experience in that role and, maybe has some high velocity, someone who can really step up to those big moments late in games, especially, if you're talking about a playoff run. And the other thing is a starting pitcher. And that became potentially even more of a need today. The D-backs just announced a few moments ago that Merrill Kelly is being placed on the 15-day injured list with right calf inflammation. Of course, he's been an enormous part of this rotation this year, and I think the Diamondbacks, even with Merrill Kelly, probably could have used a starter or two as it is. So, we'll see if any of those conversations start to move more quickly now that Merrill's on the injury list.
See, that's why we love having you on the show, Jesse. Breaking news right there with Merrill Kelly now on the bench with that calf injury. So if you're saying they want to be buyers, what are they going to use then to become buyers? In other words, what are they going to give another team if they're going to try to make a deal?
It's a great question. And yeah, we don't know a whole lot at this point about what kind of conversations the Diamondbacks are having and what names have come up. I think there's a couple of logical directions that we can speculate on. One of them would be outfielders. Even after trading Dalton Varsho over the offseason, this team still has a glut of young, especially left-handed hitting outfielders, both in the majors and in AAA. So I think there's certainly some room to maneuver there. And D-backs also have a number of young starting pitchers. Some guys you've seen in the majors this year, and Trey Jameson, Ryan Nelson, Tommy Henry. There's a few guys in AAA as well. Bryce Jarvis, Blake Walston, some other guys as well. So I think it's possible they could look to move a couple of those arms this trade deadline.
Just as we look at the All-Star game a week and a half away, it looks as though Corbin Carroll looks like he's in. It looks as though Lourdes Gurriel is on the outside looking in, currently trending at 4. Looks like Zach Gallen will probably, I would hope, be the starting pitcher. Is there an outside chance of maybe one more Diamondback, maybe as a roster spot filled, maybe a Ketel Marte or Geraldo Perdomo? Do you think there's an outside chance for those two that maybe the D-backs get 4 on the All-Star game this year?
I think it's possible. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Ketel Marte, out of the names you mentioned, really stands out to me as a guy who's deserving of that opportunity. I don't think he necessarily deserves to start in the All-Star game with what Luis Urias of the Miami Marlins is doing, but yeah,
3 minutes.
Really deserves to be in the All-Star game. At this point, you're talking about a second baseman with an OPS around 900. That's really hard to come by. That's really special stuff, what Ketel has given the Diamondbacks here over the last couple months. So I think Ketel is a good shot. I think Geraldo Perdomo, as you mentioned, I think he has a chance as well. He might be hurt a little bit by the fact that Diamondbacks have used him in a platoon role this season, so he hasn't quite gotten every day at bats as maybe other shortstops in the league have been. But you look at OPS, you look at some of the more analytics type stats like wins above replacement, and they make a compelling case that he should be right in the thick of that race as well.
I'm real curious about your thoughts as the season was getting ready to begin. Look, nobody thought that the Arizona Diamondbacks here near the end of June were going to be 2.5 games in front in the end.
2 minutes.
But the team that I was surprised with, because I thought it was going to be the Dodgers and Padres, are the San Francisco Giants. Did they catch you a little off guard, or did you see this coming, the good play by San Francisco?
That's a good question. I think I view San Francisco as a team that could certainly hang around, especially having 3 wild card spots now in each league.
Mm-hmm.
You only need about 84, 85 wins at the end of the year to at least be in that mix or close to that race. So I viewed the Giants as being a candidate to do that, but honestly, no, I really didn't see the Giants being the threat in the division that they've been up to this point. I think they're another team that certainly has some holes and will be looking to add at the trade deadline. But yeah, it's a collection of veterans. They have a lot of platoon players. They've got some players that people might not know. Lamont Wade Jr.'s had an incredible season for them. Tyro Estrada had a
1 minute.
It's not the Brandon Belts and the Pablo Sandoval's, and it's a much different look Giants team this year. But yeah, they came into the year looking to contend, and it seems like they've really had a lot of success so far.
All right, I'll give you 15 seconds. Break that story one more time on our show about Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, it was announced shortly before I came on here. Merrill Kelly's been placed on the 15-day injured list with right calf inflammation. The Diamondbacks also sent down Joe Mantiply, and they called up both Kevin Ginkel and Justin Martinez from AAA. So a couple big roster moves here to start the day.
You're the absolute best, pal. Thank you, as always, for your time. Enjoy the game tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
There you go. Great stuff. Jesse Freidman, great reads, by the way, at PHNX on the Diamondbacks. He is indeed the Diamondbacks reporter for Go PHNX. All right. It is